Game week 11 was eventful to say the least, with 2 penalty misses from Semenyo and Haaland, some big blanks from those Arsenal defenders, and a bench boost that was activated by myself. In today's video, we're going to talk about my game week 12 transfer plans, reflect on game week 11, and talk about whether Doku is now the man that we got to own in that Man City team. So as always, if you look forward to today's video, make sure to drop a like, and of course, hit that subscribe button. Enough waffling. Let's get to today's video. So first up, let's take a look at how my team got on in game week 11, because I was scrambling going into the game week 11 deadline. I had no idea what I was doing with my team with 4 free transfers available. However, I ended up making 2 transfers and activating my bench boost. So we sold Stack to Enzo Fernandez. The fear of not having him in that Chelsea team was enough for me to pull the trigger, and I ended getting rid of Enquiries and bringing in Brentford's Thiago. We'll talk about that one in a minute, but 55 points all in on a bench boost honestly does not sound like a good game week at all, but anybody that was playing this game week will know that's not a bad score. There were some really tricky games in this game week that not many people predicted, like Arsenal losing their clean sheets. So, as you can see here, some big returns from Chris Richards. With no Mark Gahey playing, it actually was huge just having somebody who featured in that Crystal Palace clean sheet, and 8 points with those defensive contributions was delightful. Bruno Fernandes with his customary assist, but he's not doing enough right now to justify the price point. Is it enough to sell him? We'll talk about that when we get onto my game week 12 team. Blanks for Sarr and Ndiaye, which was really frustrating. Return from Erling Haaland, but we spoke about the penalty miss alongside Semenyo, who delivered 0 points. Terrible from Semenyo. And we spoke about how maybe his numbers are starting to fall off a little bit. Maybe a player we need to consider selling. Mateta with the blank, but the big returner, the one that carried the team, is going to be Thiago with that 13 points. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, I thought we just got the penalty. I didn't see the injury time 3rd goal, so I was content with basically a goal and top bonus. To get the 2nd goal in added time is just the icing on the cake. Of course, it's a little bit lucky. You always need to get a bit lucky in this game. So, really, was my bench boost Thiago, Enzo, and Rodon? Probably not. I would probably have started Enzo over an Anderson, so the bench boost does start to look less and less successful, but nonetheless, a green arrow in game week 11 to 315k. I've used 2 transfers, still got some in the bank going into game week 12, but of course, the players that we do need to address in this team really are going to include Semenyo. Is he eating up a bit too much budget now, and has he really regressed to what we saw previously last season? Is Bruno Fernandes actually the right Man United player to own in this team? And of course, we need to talk about the certain Ndiaye. Is it actually time to jump off Everton? So let's take a look at my current game week 12 team. Let me know in the comment section, how many points did you score? And importantly, what is that overall rank? Now, going into game week 12, I've got myself in a position where I've got 2 free transfers and 1.5 million in the bank. When I was on my Deadline live stream for game week 11, I spoke about the toss-up between Thiago versus Bowen versus Krupi Jr. Krupi Jr. for me was one of those which was always going to be a minute's risk, and I didn't really want to have him in the team as of yet. And Bowen was a luxury player for that home game against Burnley. I'm so glad I didn't go there, because it would have used all of my budget. And now having 1.5 million in the bank just gives me that flexibility if I want to use a transfer. Now, if we take a look at game week 12 in isolation right now, are there any players that actually have a terrible fixture and in my bench that requires me to make a desperate transfer? And the answer is going to be no. The reason being is this is a bench boostable team, and this was the debate that I had game week 11 bench boost versus game week 12 bench boost. And look at this here. Dubravka at home against Chelsea, he definitely will accumulate save points. Ndiaye away against Man United, Anderson at home against Sunderland, and Rodon at home against Aston Villa. That is a great squad for this game week. So in terms of actually, does my team require a desperate transfer because I have terrible fixtures? Absolutely not. The big question right now is, am I missing out on some players that actually would just be an improvement on what already exists in my team? So I'm really content with the team right now. Really flexible position with 2 free transfers and 1.5 million in the bank. However, I don't have any Arsenal attack, and Saka with the 12-pointer has scared me. Doku looks scintillating right now in that Man City team. And of course, a certain Bryan MBEUMO is just offering way better value than that of Bruno Fernandes. So We're going to talk about those three players now because in the forward line, I don't think there are any forwards right now that are really appealing. And in terms of the defence, I don't really think there is any desperate need to bring in a defender. So take a look at some midfield players that really are on my watch list right now. I'm going to include, as I mentioned, Doku is 6.4 million, such great value if we can get a guaranteed Man City winger for the upcoming fixtures. MBEUMO at 8.5 million, who of course is about 0.5 million cheaper than Bruno Fernandes. And then, of course, we've got the premium in Bukayo Saka at 10.1 million off the back of that 12-pointer in a week where we were all really scurrying around for points. Anyone that owned Bukayo Saka in game week 11 probably did have a green arrow. So congrats to anybody that basically owned any of these three players. They really were the standouts in game week 11. So when I actually look at it for my own team right now, it is one of those sort of situations where we have to add some sort of context. So Doku, for example, is very easily a direct replacement for someone like an Ndai. I could sell Semenyo, of course, but really if you've got a player who is the exact same price as somebody else, a sideways move makes a lot of sense, especially if the fixtures do start to turn. So for me, Doku is a very easy Ndai replacement. MBEUMO is one that would be either a Semenyo or a Bruno Fernandes replacement. Again, we need to weigh up those. And then we got Saka, who is not a direct replacement for anybody in my team, unfortunately. I still think even with Bruno Fernandes, I can get there, but I have to understand that I'm moving away from a Man United attacker and going to an Arsenal attacker. So I can get there from Bruno Fernandes, but in order to go there alongside another player, it would have to be at the expense of a Semenyo and then downgrading a forward. So most likely 2 free transfers required in order to get Bukayo Saka in the team. So we've got to understand, is Saka really worth the 2 extra transfers realistically? So when we take a look at Doku right now, in terms of the underlying numbers, expected goal involvement 0.45 per 90 minutes. Now, with Doku, his numbers have always been really good per 90 minutes whenever he puts on a Man City shirt. The problem is, it's his minutes. So the numbers only tell one part of the story because he's always a great pick whenever he does play. It looks like Pep has got him another level this season. I don't know what's happened, but Doku is actually delivering in terms of end product. And clearly there was something missing for Pep to never really start him consistently. We're starting to see things slightly turn for Doku. You can see here he started 7 of the Premier League matches so far this season. The only caveat that we have to include, of course, is that he's only had 80 minutes or more twice. So Pep always has rotation. We know that Pep roulette has been a thing since he's been in the league. But Doku is especially one of those, and I say the same to Cherki, even to Foden at times. If you buy Doku, you know what you're getting. The occasional benching, if not a regular benching, if Marmoush suddenly is the man to put on the left-hand side, and you'll never really get in 90 minutes from him. So you have to be aware. If you sell an Ndai, who is a 90-minute man on penalties, to Doku, you are getting a player who is very hard to predict at times. Now, in terms of Bryan Mbeumo, 0.54 expected goal involvement per 90, of course, doesn't take penalties, so that remains the same with non-pen. In terms of Bruno Fernandes, I just got the numbers here. He's currently sat at 0.38 non-pen expected goal involvement. So he is considerably less than that of Bryan Mbeumo, and he's more expensive. And Mbeumo's one of those where he was a bit of a slow burner at the start, but has finally found his feet in this Man United team, is a 90-minute man, and has found a good link up with Amad Diallo on that right-hand side. So he is getting into those positions to be a goal scorer, which is really important. Now, looking at the fixtures for Man United, Everton at home in game week 12, Palace away in game week 13, difficult. Then they've got a nice run of West Ham, Wolves, Bournemouth and Aston Villa. Now, the huge caveat that you need to have with Bryan Mbeumo is that you're only getting really game week 12 to game week 16, and then he is going to be gone for as long as Cameroon remain in the Africa Cup of Nations. So those 5 fixtures are actually great. I think you can definitely buy Mbeumo for those 5 games. They're fantastic. But you need to know you're doing a transfer to then sell somebody. The good news, of course, we do get Africa Cup of Nations transfers, which will help you with that. As of right now, do I think I need to desperately sideways move Bruno Fernandes to Mbeumo? Maybe I'm being naive, but I think the answer is no right now. Now, in terms of Bukayo Saka, the fixtures coming up are decent. I think Spurs is a great fixture. I think Chelsea is tough in game week 13. However, there is a thought about maybe free hitting in game week 13, so we don't really need to include that. Brentford, Villa, Wolves, Everton, great long-term fixtures. I can't really deny Saka. 0.51 expected goal involvement and he'll be on penalties while Gyökeres is out, 0.62 with penalties included. Really solid pick. But for me, in order to rip at my team to bring in Saka, I really need to be certain on him as a pick for the next 2 weeks, and I just don't know if it is sitting there with me right now. So to conclude, Doku's a great buy, but you know you're taking a risk. I don't know if I want that in my team right now. And City really is game week 13 onwards. You don't need to do it for game week 12. MBEUMO is the standout Man United pick, but I don't know if it is worth doing the sideways move from Bruno. And Saka, we all know, is a great pick. But doing 2 or 3 transfers to get him in has me hesitating. Something I really wanted to quickly touch on is going to be the fixtures between now and game week 19. I know that feels miles off, but we do have a few things happening between now and then that we do need to consider. So if you look at this right here, game week 12, what I'm calling the Liverpool fixture swing. However, I've seen nothing right now from Liverpool to have any confidence on any player to invest in, even defensively. So this is the time to buy Liverpool, really. Forest, West Ham, Sunderland, Leeds, Brighton, Spurs, Wolves, Leeds. It's fantastic. But do I have any confidence going into game week 12 on any player? No. So there is a fixture swing, but there ain't any confidence. Now, whenever you see the red lines going down vertically, that indicates a cup game. So that'll either be Champions League or that'll be EFL Cup involvement. So we have got Champions League football between game weeks 12 and 13. Then in game week 13, we got the Man City fixture swing. That is huge because look at those games for Man City. Leeds, Fulham, Sunderland, Palace, West Ham. Really nice run of fixtures for Man City. The big question is, who is the guy to own alongside Erling Haaland? Maybe by game week 13, we will have it, but you don't have to buy Man City going into game week 12. Game week 14, a bit of a curveball as well. It's a mid-week game week, so we have to remember that. If we're going in game week 13, confident on a Man City player, I would be astonished if Doku played 13, 14, 15. And that is going to apply to a lot of players. Hence why those 90-minute men are really important over this period. Just have that in the back of your minds. Then in game week 16, we get our 5 Africa Cup of Nations transfers. So if you're in a position right now where you're sat there with 4 or 5 transfers and you keep rolling using 1 and 1 and 1, if you get to game week 15, I would advise trying to use as many as you possibly can to fully maximize the Africa Cup of Nations 5 that they give you. If you get to game week 15 deadline and you still got 5 available and you just go into the game week 16 game week, they won't give you any transfers because you don't get 5 plus 5. It's 5 maximum. So do remember that. And it was a reason why I used my transfers in game week 11 because I didn't see a lot of transfers that I needed to make in game week 12 or possibly 13 with a free hit. Then in game week 19, we got 2 things, a midweek game week and the last week that we can use our chips. So do remember that. So take me as an example. I've got my free hit and triple captain available. I'm currently looking at maybe game week 13 just because Arsenal have got a game against Chelsea. Maybe that's an opportunity to be a bit different in that week. And we also have a few interesting games that we can target. For example, we've got Man City against Leeds. If we can identify that triple up, brilliant. And then it's a midweek game in game week 14. So I don't really know if I want my City players for that. So what a great week to get your triple up and then move out. And then get them in game week 15 if you require them. Brentford at home against Burnley. Reason why I bought Thiago, because if I don't free hit, I've got Thiago in place for that Burnley game. Maybe we can get some Aston Villa if they continue their good form. Maybe a differential is going to emerge. And if you're brave enough, maybe even a Spurs player against a Fulham team that are struggling right now. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. Triple captain can be used really on anybody, but it's going to be Erling Haaland most likely. And probably game week 17 or 15 for those home games and just get it out of the way. So finally, take a look at my game week 12 transfer plans. So going into this week, 2 free transfers, 1.5 million in the bank. We always ask ourselves the question, what am I missing this game week from the fixtures? So as you can see here, I've got my Chelsea in terms of Enzo against Burnley. I am content with that. Don't love the fixtures beyond that for Chelsea, so I don't feel desperate to bring in a certain João Pedro. I've got my Palace against Wolves. I've got my Bournemouth against West Ham. Yes, I'm happy to keep Semenyo for 1 more week against West Ham, and then I'm going to reassess and possibly look at him as a potential cash cow. Do I think there is enough right now to get rid of him this week? No. I'm going to put it out there. I don't want to sell Semenyo this week. Then in terms of Brighton, Brentford, I've got my Thiago. I don't feel like I need any Brighton right now. Very hard to predict. Fulham are a big avoid. Liverpool for me right now are still an avoid. I cannot sit here right now and tell you who to buy. Newcastle City is a big avoid. Leeds Villa, again, I don't have any confidence right now on Villa. Leeds, I'm not buying Leeds. Arsenal is the big one because that is a week where I could see Arsenal just beating Spurs quite comfortably. Now, it's worth noting, Spurs have been better away from home. Are they better enough to put in a great performance against Arsenal? I think the answer is going to be no. So, of course, no Bukayo Saka is another painful one, and he does step up in these games, I do feel, against Spurs. So, the good thing for me is that I have no easy way to get to Bukayo Saka. So, really, my decision's been made. I'm going without Saka. Thiago down to Mark Gui still doesn't give me enough to do and die up to him. So it just doesn't really give me an option. And I kind of don't mind that. It doesn't give me the headache. The only way I can get there is selling Bruno Fernandes to get to Saka. Do I feel content with that move? Not really. Everton have been poor away. I just don't want to do it. So I'm going to go without Bukayo Saka. And the plan is to roll the transfer this week. Doku is a no away against Newcastle. MBEUMO I do love, but do I feel compelled enough to do it this week? Not really. Maybe I'm going to regret that. Then going into game week 13, my team looks something like this. Now, double Arsenal against Chelsea. Could I see them just winning that game? Yes to nil. Yes. But is it possibly a week for me to take on? I think there is potential. However, I will say my team still looks fine for this week. And of course, Ndai's actually been pretty good against, Newcastle have been terrible away from home. So there is actually opportunity for me to change his team if I wanted to. But a free hit does look quite tasty. You know, I could bring in a Man City player for this week and then just have him gone because game week 14 is midweek, as we discussed. I could explore going down the route of, you know, some interesting picks and then avoiding Arsenal altogether if I wanted to and back in Chelsea to at least score. So a free hit right now in game week 13 is on the cards, and we're just going to have that as a placeholder. Then going into game week 14, we need to remind ourselves that we're in a position where this is a midweek fixture, so it's very difficult to understand who is the best players, what is the best route to go for. However, if this was my team for this week, I am absolutely fine with it. Really, the big ones that I'm missing for this particular game week is going to be an Arsenal attacker once again, but I will have 3 free transfers to navigate this. Liverpool against Sunderland, but again, who is the Liverpool guy that you want to own? It's very hard to know. And defensively, my team looks great for this week. So really, I'm trying to put myself in a position with lots of flexibility, but right now I'm planning to get to game week 15, probably use my triple captain on Erling Haaland, use transfers in this week to move away from certain players like a Semenyo if it is time to get him gone, like a Thiago possibly, and then get myself in game week 16, allowing myself to have all of the African Cup of Nations transfers. So that's currently the plan. Game week 12, try and roll the transfer. I have no easy way of getting to Saka unless I want to sell Bruno Fernandes. And then in game week 13, potentially free hitting. And then 14, allowing myself whatever happens between now and that game week. Yes, guys, okay, that's going to wrap up today's video. Looking at my game week 12 transfer plans, as you can see, I'm basically trying to avoid Bukayo Saka for the next 2 game weeks and then possibly buy him in. Can I get lucky enough? We will see. Of course, it's the international break right now, so don't make any early transfers. I know you are tempted, but really, it is better just to sit, enjoy the international games as best as you can, and then buy closer to the deadline, which is going to be next week. So if you enjoyed the video, please do consider drop a like, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Any questions, put them in the comment section. I'll be sure to get to them. And importantly, have a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Cheers.